Welcome to Timeless Battles, where history meets mythology. Explore the epic stories of ancient wars, legendary heroes, and mythological gods from diverse cultures. The city lay in ruins, a once thriving metropolis now reduced to a sea of shattered buildings and smoldering craters. The sky was filled with a storm of dust and debris, the air thick with the scent of destruction. In the heart of this chaos stood Doomsday, a hulking, monstrous figure, covered in jagged spines and glowing eyes that burned with a hunger for annihilation. His body, bloodied and scarred, seemed to pulse with the very essence of rage. His immense power had torn through the city, laying waste to everything in his path. He was a creature born of destruction, and he reveled in it. Before him, rising from the wreckage, stood his adversary. Juggernaut, in his crimson armor, seemed an unstoppable force of nature in his own right. His every movement shook the ground beneath him, each step a deafening echo of power. His massive fists, covered in enchanted armor, gleamed in the dim light, and his eyes burned with fury. The two titans locked eyes, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Only one of them would walk away from this battle. Without warning, Juggernaut charged, a beast of raw power, his massive frame moving with a speed that defied his size. The ground cracked under the force of his steps as he barreled toward Doomsday. His fists, larger than most human bodies, swung with the force of a wrecking ball, and when they collided with Doomsday's chest, the shockwave reverberated through the city. Buildings crumbled, streets shattered, and the earth itself trembled at the sheer power of the blow. Doomsday staggered back for a moment, but only for a moment. His body, though already bearing the marks of battle, seemed to absorb the impact, and with a guttural roar, he retaliated. His massive fist crashed into Juggernaut's side, sending him tumbling through a series of buildings. The sound of glass shattering, steel bending, and concrete breaking echoed across the battlefield. But Juggernaut, though dazed, rose without hesitation. His resilience was legendary, and he would not be defeated so easily. The battle raged on, each blow from Juggernaut sending shockwaves through the battlefield. His momentum was unmatched, and his strength was nearly limitless. But Doomsday, ever the adaptable monster, was not easily overwhelmed. He gritted his teeth, his eyes narrowing as he assessed his opponent. Juggernaut's strength was undeniable, but Doomsday's instincts kicked in. He had faced many foes before, and he had evolved to overcome them. He wasn't just going to outmuscle Juggernaut, he was going to outlast him. As the epic unfolds, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more adventures. With every strike, Doomsday's body began to adapt. His skin, already tough and impervious to most attacks, began to grow thicker, harder, and more resistant to Juggernaut's blows. His muscles swelled, his strikes becoming more precise, more calculated. He wasn't just reacting anymore. He was evolving in real time, learning from Juggernaut's attacks and preparing to counter them. Juggernaut, meanwhile, was relentless. His charge never slowed, his rage never waned. Every time Doomsday landed a blow, Juggernaut simply pushed through it, never faltering. His power seemed limitless, his drive unstoppable. He swung his fists with incredible speed, each blow shaking the ground, each impact sending ripples through the very air itself. He hit Doomsday with everything he had, and yet every time the monstrous titan recovered, his body regenerating, his strength growing. But there was something different now. Doomsday's evolution had shifted the tide of the battle. As Juggernaut charged once more, Doomsday sidestepped his attack with a fluidity that suggested an entirely new level of intelligence. Juggernaut's massive fist slammed into the ground where Doomsday had just been, the impact sending dust and debris flying into the air. Before Juggernaut could react, Doomsday grabbed him by the arm, twisting it with a sickening crack. Juggernaut roared in pain, but before he could break free, Doomsday delivered a series of crushing blows to his chest, each one landing with the force of a freight train. For the first time, Juggernaut stumbled. He gritted his teeth, trying to push himself back up, but Doomsday was already upon him. Another blow landed to the side of Juggernaut's head, sending him crashing into the ground. He lay there for a moment, stunned, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. The crack in his armor deepened, the first visible sign that even Juggernaut's impenetrable defense was not invincible. The battle had shifted. Doomsday towered over his fallen foe, his breathing heavy, but his body still pulsing with destructive energy. Juggernaut, however, was not done yet. With a roar, he pushed himself up, his rage amplifying his strength. He charged again, faster this time, his body becoming a blur of crimson as he barreled toward Doomsday. But Doomsday was ready. As Juggernaut closed the distance, Doomsday sidestepped once more, catching Juggernaut off guard. This time, his spikes, which had grown sharper and more dangerous, dug deep into Juggernaut's armor as he slammed his foe into the ground. The sound of grinding metal and cracking armor filled the air as Juggernaut's body collided with the earth. He struggled, his immense strength trying to break free, but Doomsday's grip was like steel, unyielding. The cracks in Juggernaut's armor widened, revealing the vulnerable flesh beneath. The once unstoppable force was now on the defensive, unable to regain his momentum. Juggernaut's fury only grew as he struggled to escape, but the damage had been done. His attacks had become sluggish, predictable. Doomsday had already anticipated his every move, countering with ruthless precision. Each blow from Juggernaut was weaker than the last, his body growing more battered with every strike. Doomsday's regenerative powers were working at full capacity now, healing the wounds that Juggernaut's assault had inflicted. With one final, desperate charge, Juggernaut threw everything he had left into his attack. He moved faster than ever before, his anger driving him forward. But Doomsday was ready. As Juggernaut rushed toward him, Doomsday sidestepped once again, his body moving with a fluidity and speed that matched Juggernaut's. With a quick twist, Doomsday slammed Juggernaut into the ground, sending shockwaves through the city. The impact was so violent that the ground itself cracked beneath them, sending cracks through the very foundation of the city. For a moment, there was silence. Juggernaut lay motionless, his body broken, his armor shattered. Doomsday stood above him, breathing heavily, his eyes glowing with the satisfaction of victory. Juggernaut's body twitched one last time, but he did not rise. The once mighty Juggernaut, whose power had seemed limitless, had been outlasted, outsmarted, and broken. The battlefield was still, save for the faint hum of Doomsday's breathing. He stood victorious, but his victory had come at a cost. The battle had been long and brutal, and though his body was already healing, the destruction around him was a reminder of the chaos he had wrought. As he turned and walked away from the fallen Juggernaut, the ground trembled beneath him. He had conquered, but the war for survival would never end. He was a creature of perpetual destruction, an unstoppable force, and there would always be another battle, another foe to face. For now, though, Doomsday was the victor. Juggernaut had fallen, but in the distance, Doomsday's eyes burned with the knowledge that his evolution would continue. The universe would soon feel his wrath again,